Hello, and welcome to Point of View, where we give students a place to listen, learn, and lean in. I'm your host, Eric, and I'm here with Zara and Aidan, and today we'll be talking about Day of the Dead versus Halloween.
Halloween is a celebration observed every year all around the world on October 31st. Halloween originates from the Celts. The Celts, or the Celtic people, were a group of European peoples in Europe and Anatolia. This first mention of the Celts was between 540 and 424 BC. The tradition of Halloween came to be from the Celtic festival of Samhain. This festival marked the end of the summer and the beginning of the dark winter. The winter was often associated as a dark time and implied death for the Celts. Therefore, on October 31st, they celebrated Samhain because it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth. To honor this event, the Celtic people built huge fires where people would burn crops and animals as a sacrifice. It was also very common for the Celtic people to wear costumes made out of animal heads and skins. Over hundreds of centuries, the holiday transitioned from a festival to a day of parties, costumes, and candy. During the Middle Ages, trick-or-treating emerged in England and Ireland. The poorer people would dress in costumes and go to wealthier families and receive pastries from them. The pastries were called soul cakes, and eventually this tradition became known as souling. This would eventually become known as trick-or-treating, where kids and young teens of all ages wear costumes and ask for candy on their neighbors' doorsteps. In the 1980s, adult scary costumes and movies began emerging and associating with Halloween. Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, is originally a Mexican holiday. This holiday is a blend of Spaniards, Catholicism, and indigenous traditions and beliefs. This tradition goes back around 3,000 years, honoring the loved ones that have passed away. When someone died, they were said to travel to the land of the dead. Mexican myths say that before getting to the final resting place, there were 9 challenging levels. This journey would take years for the dead. The 9 levels were: 1. A river where a Mexican hairless dog assisted the dead in crossing waters. 2. A location where 2 mountains continuously collided. The dead would have to choose a moment to run between the 2 mountains without getting crushed. 3. A hill of sharp obsidian blades. This would cut the bodies of the dead. 4. A frozen place. This was called Place of Obsidian Wind. 5. A region where a cutting wind, like obsidian knives, blows through. 6. The area where a jaguar appears to devour the hearts of the deceased. 7. A lake filled with black water where a giant iguana attempts to hinder the soul's passage. 8. The final stop before reaching Mitlatan. Souls reach the edge of this 9-fold river with the aid of the Mexican hairless dog. The souls would get defleshed here, and their souls would get liberated from their bodies. And 9. They would need to cross 9 lagoons, and then the ultimate destination, a place of eternal darkness where souls disappear forever, and then they would be free from their severings. The source is from Aztecs of Mexico lore. Nahua rituals, family members provided food, water, and tools to aid for the deceased in this difficult journey. Day of the Dead is celebrated on November 1st and 2nd. This Mexican holiday is celebrated by families leaving out food and offerings for their loved ones who have passed. People set up altars or ofrendas in their homes and put the offerings for their past loved ones.
In these similar holidays, they have a lot of compare and contrasting. Both holidays involve food, which then plays a key part in each celebration. However, for the Day of the Dead, the food is typically traditional Mexican dishes like pan de muertos, which means bread of the dead, tamales, which are meant to honor the deceased, and so much more. Halloween tends to just be generic candy like chocolate bars and other store-bought candy that may be having a spooky theme added to them occasionally. Clothing. The Day of the Dead tends to celebrate the dead more than anything. Thus, the clothing involves bright colors like orange and yellow, often with floral patterns, while Halloween is all about spooky themes with polar opposite colors being darker ones like black, and focuses on frightening and even comically outfit designs. Decor. Both often feature skulls and skeletons, but in Day of the Dead, they are often colorful and festive, symbolizing a joyful connection with the deceased, which are decorative skulls. The skeleton figurines are playful, representing the dead as part of the living world. On Halloween, skulls and skeletons are usually darker, scarier, and meant to invoke fear or mystery, often set in haunted or eerie themes. Both holidays use candles, but Dias de los Muertos uses them to guide spirits back home, while Halloween decor tends to highlight spooky atmospheres with a dim lighting and shadows. So while both share a focus on death, the vibe is very different. One is celebratory and the other eerie. Language's effect on each holiday. Language plays an important role in shaping the tone and meaning of the Day of the Dead and Halloween. The Day of the Dead, much of the language is used and tied to love, remembrance, and celebration. Phrases like Day of the Faithful Departed and Ofrendas reflect the idea of honoring and reconnecting with ancestors. The focus is on memory and continuation of life. For Halloween, the language is more about fear, mystery, and supernatural. Words like haunted, ghosts, trick-or-treat, and witches highlight the playful fear and spookiness that define the holiday. So while both holidays deal with the themes of death, the words and phrases associated with them influence whether the holiday feels like a celebration or a scare. Symbols in the Day of the Dead represent and reflect the different cultural meanings each holiday has regarding to death. For the Day of the Dead, symbols like marigold flowers, sugar skulls, and candles are central. These symbols are meant to guide and welcome spirits back to the world of living. The sugar skulls, for example, are colorful and personalized, symbolizing the beauty and individuality of life and death. In contrast, Halloween's symbols like jack-o'-lanterns, black cats, and ghosts are tied to fear, the unknown, and warding off evil spirits. And to clarify, jack-o'-lanterns were originally used to scare away harmful ghosts, while bats and spiders were seen as eerie creatures of the night before modern commercialization. Both holidays use symbols related to death, but the Day of the Dead focuses on inviting the dead back, while Halloween symbols are about keeping spooky things at bay. Celebrated. The Day of the Dead and Halloween have evolved in both their traditional and modern celebrations. Historically, the Day of the Dead was a deeply spiritual event rooted in indigenous Mexican culture, while with families gathering at gravesites to honor ancestors, preparing special food, and building altars. Today, with those traditions remaining strong, the celebration has become more widespread in public, with parades, festivals, and even international recognition. It's a blend of old customs and modern festivities, but the core focus on honoring the dead remains. Halloween, on the other hand, is celebrated with a heavy emphasis on commercialization, costumes, haunted houses, and candy sales, but its roots in the spooky and supernatural persists. Both holidays have kept some of their core traditions, but have adapted to modern times with larger public celebrations and commercialized aspects.
As with any national or global holiday, these ones hold an impact on many forms of media. For example, the movie industry. It's no surprise when a Halloween-themed movie is released during the spooky month. It just simply makes sense. In fact, one of the most popular classical horror movies to live is literally named Halloween. Now, the Day of the Dead is no stranger to movies either. Coco is a popular animated film, which is in essence the holiday itself, having the main premise trying to remember a lost family member who disappeared. Another industry that receives massive impacts from the two holidays are video games. Games such as Dead by Daylight always tend to receive yearly updates around this time based around Halloween, with skins for their characters loosely similar to Day of the Dead type costumes. And finally, both holidays can be found impacting our general merchandise. In stores like Walmart, you can find items for both holidays, such as Halloween costumes and decorative items, as well as for Day of the Dead costumes and decorative items. Thank you so much for listening. For a transcript of this episode, head to the Point of View tab on our website, nhsmessenger.org, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at NHS Point of View for updates and new episodes. I'm your host, Eric, with Zara and Aidan, and this has been Point of View.